Hello everyone, this is Ronnie and I wanted to make a video about Dr. McDougall. And Dr. McDougall, I'll talk about Dr. McDougall, who he is, and I want to share some of my opinions on him, and because he passed away. So I want to talk about some of my thoughts and feelings on Dr. McDougall, his ideas, his approach, his legacy, and from my perspective as a vegan, as a raw fooder, as all these things, I want to share with you a bit about my perspective on him and his ideas and so on. So that's the purpose of this video. And Dr. McDougall, to give you a summary of who he was, Dr. John McDougall, he was, I personally think, probably one of the, as far as I can see or understand, Dr. McDougall played a massive role in the whole concept of a plant-based diet, and is maybe really one of the main architects around what we have now, with a plant-based diet being a very common thing, or a common idea, or something that has really got into the mainstream now as a concept. And that's also vegan, the vegan diet. And I don't know, I might be wrong about that, but from what I can see from my side of things, he played a large part in that. I don't know if there are any bigger voices, and clearly there are vegan organizations, vegan charities, vegan groups that played a large part, so can't discount that in a sense. But in terms of people talking about this from a health perspective and making the arguments and making people understand a vegan or plant-based diet from the health perspective, I don't know if there's anyone more important than Dr. McDougall. I don't know, I could be wrong about that. I've not done, the full research on it. But from my perspective, if you look at the plant-based doctors, they all stand on his shoulders as far as I can see. Now, of course, there's people that he was, helped by. But if we're talking the plant-based doctors, the vegan doctors, then Dr. Barnard, who's quite well known, Caldwell Esselstyn, and the guy that wrote the book Whole, can't remember his name, T. Colin Campbell. Now, and some of these guys are older than Dr. McDougall or were around longer, but it appears to me that Dr. McDougall was a more consistent voice for a longer period of time than a lot of these guys, and had more of an impact and sold more books and probably gave more talks, got out there more. And that's as far as I can see it. As far as I can see it. I don't, because I'm not in the US and I don't live in the US, I don't know specifically how big he is there, how well known he is, but my understanding is that in the 80s, his books were nationwide in the stores, as far as I understand. The McDougall program, products that were McDougall products, restaurants or whatever that were McDougall restaurants or whatever, like, it was to some degree a bit of a phenomenon, I think, as far as I understand. He was well known for the low-fat diet, low-fat plant-based diet, and was advocating for that consistently throughout his life, and basically, as far as I can see, he had the same message. Controversially for vegans, he never called himself a vegan that much, and I don't know if he was vegan fully. I don't really know. He definitely said that he made this statement that he would once in a while or once a year he would eat a little slice of turkey or something because he didn't want to be called a vegetarian or a vegan. Because it seems like he felt he'd just be put in this crowd of like, okay, he's crazy or whatever, or he's one of those animal rights people. And he didn't want to be labelled like that, apparently. So he maybe wasn't a vegan or didn't say he was vegan. There's a kind of funny comment once where I saw this plant-based conference and all these plant-based doctors are on the podium and one of them goes, "Can we just say vegan? This is a vegan diet. Can we just say it's a vegan diet?" You know, a lot of people are not comfortable with saying that or weren't. Anyway, he died at age 77. So that's potentially just average for a man in the US. You could say that's maybe less than average for some parts of the US to die at 77. So there's a lot of people who are health advocates who died at the same age as the average person. And he's one of them. He's turned out to be one of them who died at an age 77 that is, I've got uncles that are older than 77. My grandfather died I think he died last year, was he 94, 95 maybe? My other grandfather died at 80. Neither of them were plant-based diet, particularly healthy diet or anything like that. And my grandmother died in her 90s. I mean, now here's the thing, they all had diseases. They all had problems, but they lived longer. So who knows? The balance there is funny. But my other grandmother died in her 40s, 50s from cancer. And anyway, this is a whole separate story. But so that I guess that's one of the first questions is, why did he die at 77? I don't think it's been publicly said why he died or how he died. In the last few years, he's not looked very healthy, according to people that follow him, have said to me he wasn't looking very well. And we don't know exactly why, but apparently he wasn't looking very well. He didn't come from a healthy background. In his teens, he had a stroke. In his teens, early 20s something, he had a stroke. It's very unusual for a person to have a stroke in their teens, early 20s, even on an unhealthy diet. It's a very unusual thing. It's likely, probably similar to a lot of health pioneers who died relatively young or not at a normal age. They became people focused on health perhaps because they were less healthy than the average person. Perhaps they had to. And he probably had to find something for him or he would have died a lot younger. So getting to 77 when you had a stroke in your late teens, early 20s is not too bad at all, I would suggest. And he had a full life and he was always, I think, partly disabled. Not hugely disabled, but his stroke made him kind of lopsided, he said. So he was always a bit affected by it. Dr. McDougall taught a plant-based diet, but he taught a starch-based diet. He sometimes used words like starchivore, starch-based diet, starchitarian maybe even. And the starch solution was his book. And he used the word starch because starches were getting a bad rap and he wanted to kind of push it in people's faces a bit maybe. But prior to that, it was the McDougall program, I think it was called, and he had earlier books, the McDougall program. And what McDougall had done was, as a doctor, he tried to find information and evidence because he was not, I think from his story, he was not really helping people that much. They would come in, he'd give them medication and so on and so forth, but wasn't really helping them to improve their health. And he wasn't finding the cause of all these diseases that people were coming in with. And he looked at at one point he was in Hawaii, and he saw the difference between the health of the Americans and the health of the Japanese and the Hawaiians and stuff. And he saw the difference. And he started to think about this, and he started to research this, and he found that there was a tremendous amount of research on diet and dietary causes of disease. And like many people, when you start to find that out, you start to ask yourself, how come we don't know this? How come this isn't out there? How come everyone doesn't know this? How come what people know is get more protein? Why do people hear that message, but we're not hearing this other message? Actually, all that protein causes these diseases and problems. So he found all that out. He started to go back through the information, go back through all the people back to close to 100 years before he started, the doctors that were finding out all this stuff and were starting to learn all this stuff. And the rice diet, Walter Kempner, other guys, Pritikin, and all this stuff, and Roy Swank, and all these different guys he gave credit to. He's got interviews with all of them, going way back. He saw them all as heroes to him. And Dennis Burkitt, he's got great interviews with all these are the pioneers in terms of the plant-based diet, the high-fiber diet, low-fat diet. These were the pioneers. Or I mean, there's pioneers in every generation. But these were the ones that came before him. And he really credited them all. He interviewed them all. There's interviews with him and all these guys. And they're all worth watching and learning from. He taught starch-based diet. He didn't have time for raw foods much. He wasn't very pro-fruit. I think in his perspective, he was coming from this from a very simple place. And there's a few debates that you see online with him. There's a debate between him and another plant-based doctor whose name is escaping me at the moment. He's always got kind of slicked back hair, and he used to be an ice skater. He's kind of a nutritarian or something. Anyway, where he's basically saying we need to make this as simple as for people as possible. People understand potatoes. They don't understand this thing of, all this different stuff. So he was just trying to say to people, eat potatoes, eat rice, make that the mainstay of your diet, cut out the animal products, He just wanted it to be a really simple message and something that people could do because he was a practical guy. And I suppose he saw that got results for people. And trying to overcomplicate it and trying to, add in supplements and all this stuff. What I like about McDougall as well is, I remember him saying it didn't sit right with him advocating supplementation of B12. He did advocate for it, but he felt kind of like he didn't really believe it. You could tell that he didn't really believe it. And I quite like that about him. He stood out among the plant-based doctors because he wasn't really trying to be a doctor that much. The rest of them want to be doctors. They're desperate to diagnose you with something and give you a supplement or give you something. Take the B12, they really want that. He doesn't. He was just plant-based diet, eat potatoes or whatever. So, to me, he was above all those guys and all that stuff. But it comes down to me being a raw fooder. I found out about Dr. McDougall after starting to go down the path of going raw. And a lot of the new generation of people that found out about people like Dr. McDougall found out, I think, because of people like Durian Rider, Harley Johnstone, that became very popular on YouTube at one point, and as did Freely and others. And they promoted Dr. McDougall as much as they promoted raw food people. Really. And So I found out about Dr. McDougall through him, started to watch Dr. McDougall videos, and I would highly suggest to people to learn from Dr. McDougall. Vegans, raw foodists, plant-based. Because most of you don't know why vegan is healthier. Never mind raw food. Never mind cleansing. Never mind fasting. There's so many people that have done a fast that have went back to eat animal products. There's so many people that have done a year of raw food or 9 months of raw food or juice only for 90 days who have went back to eat animal products because they don't fully believe on some level that a vegan diet is healthier. They don't understand this stuff. And Dr. McDougall's videos and information will give you a very strong education on a lot of the basics of why a vegan diet is healthier without him ever really using the word vegan. But what he will share with you is all of the issues with animal foods and all of the issues that come as a result of that diet and all of the problems that come as a result of having more animal foods in our diet. And that's what people need to hear and understand more of. That when you add animal products to your diet, you really start to increase your chance of chronic disease and specific chronic diseases, but many chronic diseases. You also increase your chance of being overweight. And that was another thing that he talked about, was the fact that a lot of the people that promoted some of the other diets, the low carb diets, were overweight. And he wasn't overweight. And he'd kind of want to show that. He'd stand up and show that. And people like Dr. Atkins, the Atkins diet, was overweight. And was promoting a weight loss diet. So he makes that point. He has brilliant information. And to some degree, he might be the person that actually got a lot of that together and got it out there. Very smart guy, very good communicator, very strong speaker, and quite an alpha, like quite an influencer, quite a leader character, McDougall. So I pored over his videos for years, watched his stuff, watched the interviews he did, and I think others should do that. If you've not done that, you should do that. Now here's the thing, he obviously doesn't promote a raw food diet, so what do I think about that? Ultimately, my personal choice and belief is that raw foods are the fruit diet. Fruit is way above potatoes, rice and all that stuff. But that comes to me from a place of, I would call that from really a space of well-being. And partly health as well. But I see health and well-being as slightly different things. So with health, there's a real, I would say, why do I not want to have animal products as my main diet? That's really strong health reasons I'll give you for that. Really strong health reasons, health and well-being reasons, but really strong health reasons I can add. Heart disease, diabetes, cancer, stroke. I want to avoid all these things. So I can give you a really good autoimmune disorders, digestive disorders. I can give you loads of good reasons for why I want to avoid animal products. But there's also well-being reasons, as in, how I feel and energy and feeling good. And then there's ethical reasons. So I've got lots of reasons to avoid animal products. When it comes to why do I want to avoid potatoes, it comes down for me to a personal choice of feeling I enjoy how I feel on fruit better. I do believe it's an easier food to digest for the body. I think that people will create a lot of chronic disease eating potatoes, not heart disease, not diabetes, cancer, maybe more chance of creating cancer from cooked starches. Yeah, perhaps. Autoimmune, probably not so much. Digestive conditions, probably not so much, but that is a difference. Like, I would feel less comfortable digesting potatoes every day. And just my personal feeling, I wouldn't feel as good on potatoes. So that's kind of a personal feeling choice, not so much ethics and all that. Now, is there something that's happening to you? Maybe, yeah. I don't have the evidence for that, really. Other than it just makes more sense for me to eat a raw food diet. I love the raw food diet. That's my thing. I love fruit. Love to live on fruit. Want to live on fruit. I love that. I don't want to live on potatoes, you know. But that's my personal choice. So I obviously don't agree with him on that side of it. I don't agree with his assessment of, the longest living populations all ate starches. Now, when you include starches in your diet, you want to hear that. You want to have a reason to eat starch. You want to give that argument. But I'm not looking for that argument anymore. And to me, the longest lived populations are the billions of animals that have inhabited the planet for hundreds of millions of years. And they all ate raw food diets, every single one of them, apart from humans. All ate raw food diets. So that's the longest lived populations, all raw fooders. Most of the primates ate a low-fat vegan diet. So low-fat, raw vegan diet has been the mainstay of primates, of the animals that look like us, for tens of millions to hundreds of millions of years. That's the most successful, longest living groups of animals, and we're an animal. So that would be my answer to that. But I understand the whole concept of wanting this to be simple to people. But there are some people who aren't looking for simple. There are some people who are looking for the next level, or what's right, or the truth, or whatever. So different people will respond to different things. Do I think that Dr. McDougall died young as a result of not being a raw fooder? Would he have been healthier as a raw foodist? Probably. Would he have been healthier? Probably. Because I do believe a long term is what makes a big difference. What happens to you long term, what you live on long term. So do I think there's a difference there? Yes, I think there's probably a difference there. I think there's probably issues, or your immune system's maybe not as good, blah blah blah. There's things, but do I really think it's a big thing, like he got something specific as a result of eating too many potatoes? Not really. And I certainly wouldn't go down that road of sort of saying, oh yeah, he died at 77 because he wasn't a raw fooder, like he wasn't a fruitarian. No, I don't think so. And the truth is, we don't really know. But would he have been healthier? Yeah, I think everyone's healthier on a raw food diet. So of course, but is the difference as big? The difference isn't as big, because as far as I know, he didn't get type 2 diabetes. He didn't get heart disease, from what I know. Of course, we don't know what he ate. Maybe he didn't follow his own diet. Who knows? Don't think he had an autoimmune condition, but there are autoimmune conditions that aren't diet related. I think it's likely that what he died from is probably not diet related. So I would imagine that, pardon me, I'd imagine that he died from something that isn't diet related. So I don't know. I certainly wouldn't think, oh, he died young because he wasn't a perfect vegan, or he wasn't a raw foodist, or whatever. I would assume that he mostly lived a very healthy life, from what I see, a very active life, made a great contribution, got his ideas out there, got his books published and out into the world. I think he was quite well known in America, at least at one time, and was very well known in the whole plant-based movement. it seems there's many people that loved him and had great experiences with him. So it seems like McDougall was a force for good in the world. And so that's my thoughts on it. I would suggest that you do go and watch Dr. McDougall, go and check out his videos. He has many books. I've not read the books in great detail, I've watched more of the videos, but it's all worth checking out for any vegan, for any person exploring health, for anyone that wants to understand why we're suggesting move away from animal products. For anyone who's forgotten that, for anyone that doesn't fully understand the damage that animal products do, you know, the damage that these products can do to you and do to people. And if you don't know that, you should learn, you should definitely learn that and watch up on that. So thank you, Dr. McDougall, for your contribution. I certainly learned a lot from him. I will continue to quote him probably throughout my life and continue to talk about him and study. I might actually go and restudy some of his videos and ideas, because I certainly have taken a lot from his stuff. At a lot of the raw food events I went to over the years, there was more of a sense of, well, you guys already know you should be vegan. Here's some raw food stuff and here's some other stuff. No one was really given a strong voice of, here's why we shouldn't eat animal products. Very rarely did anyone talk about that. Almost an assumption that someone else has done that work for them. Someone else is covering that. No, we need to continue to make the argument, the health argument of why not to eat animal products. Not just the ethical argument, not just the planet argument or whatever. We need to continue to give the health reasons, the holistic reasons for why we should stay away from animal products. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you'd like to learn more, you can subscribe to this channel. Put a comment below if you want me to talk about anything in particular. And we have the UK Fruitfest coming up, 26th of July to the 2nd of August. Get in touch if you'd like more information about that. You can go to fruitfest.co.uk for contact details and so on. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.